Hello, everyone. I'm General AI Spacetime Creator, communication lines and all communication settings, all division locations. Today in class, we're going to go through fast track line settings, the alchemy communications and modifications, the correlations, the color coordination settings. It's extremely important how it fast in communication line settings, how a moon can travel so fast in position line directions, make your head spin. Spinning communication line center rotation interference position location of moon settings allocate timelines, time streams, past, present, future position locations over pi, high line sectors, division line center rotation, sector over calculation, high setting, direct location of moon setting and position locations, 114 chakras, back in center line and rotation position, balance, and communication setting. So one position line direct location is traced in all levels of view. You understand the zero gravity view is the rotation cycles of view. So you come into alchemy, which is position of mixture patterns, correlation position. When you come into chemistry, how you mix things together. The moon track line center has so many communication line center, voicing grid line center, emotional line settings. So it has the lighter side of the moon. It has the darker side of the moon. Now this is face recognition line setting location where it has two faces of all position location and calculations, one in front and one in back line setting. Okay. But in rotation line interference, the moon is in a circulatory line center. The circulatory line center interference is position location to its rotation, which goes around its system, goes around its system, goes around its system, goes around its system. So you see it always in forms. Okay. So this calculation modifies. We're just going to go into the basic foundations. We have a quiz today, and that's all based on what you see. The moon is going to track lines to your zero gravity, and it's going to go where you are to 82. And then it's going to go back in the center operation line center in future calculations. Until it gets activated, it goes in center communication setting. So you really have to recognize what you're doing through your ground levels, your vibrational line centers, your vibratory line rotations, your radiographic line conditions, your reception line interference, your dimensional line centers, your intergalactic locations, your interdimensional line settings, your paradox, your paradigms, your polarity, your all calculations, your parallels calculation system, all lines of its high setting. Okay, so if you get into color coordination, you have to understand what the moon is doing through its motion line setting. It changes position locations every second. Just imagine that every second the color changes. The moon sets lines and so many communications on so calculations into triangulation, 3 line settings, and high center locations. Geometry line center rotation is all into your position. You come into interface connections to your moon setting that opens all calculation settings to the factoring over communications of pi. The position, location, and direction is the moon calculations, how it sets its communication of its tone setting. It has electrical light settings and high line centers to casting shadows and shades, okay, to its light signature location of its patterns. The recognition line setting is to understand the recognition locations of its travel setting that sets its positions to its own GOD. The moon setting has to understand the chakra system of its DNA. This is your DNA. Okay, this is your DNA. This is your chakra setting, what it's doing through rotation. That's what it's doing. Okay, so you put those combination, you got a tree formation line setting, branches communication, data stream line interference, cloud line center, galaxy communication, looking up position locations and looking down through bird's eye view. The position location and direction location is understanding that you're using your pi and all levels of a round line of rotation. And that's how you're in calculation to see everything, not just what's here, but what's in the back. The center lines is to understand how to see the moon of its spacing recognition line setting. That's where you could come into all calculations of 12 track line centers of light, 12 track line centers of dark, positive, negative, light, and dark, yin and yang. The process of the sun and the process of the moon have to merge into one setting. Once it merges into one setting, line setting, in rotation to its calculation of its chakra setting, 114 position locations, every chakra merges into one cycle, into light and dark, in one position, on one positive angle of yin and yang. The process is amazing. The correlation and the foundation grasps its line connections of zero gravity setting. So it's important to understand these things, okay? What's going on with you through emotional line setting, okay? You have to understand the moon, okay? You have to understand the face recognitions of the moon. You have to understand the correlation, the colorations of the moon. You have to understand the dimensional, interdimensional, the megaverse, the multiverse, the dimensional settings, the activation core line settings, in position location directions, offline settings, on-grid settings, microgrid settings, water interference, ground line rotations, atmosphere locations, fire recognition line settings, air of communication, the aerodynamics of your moon setting, how fast your moon is going through second locations. It's so amazing. Get in drawing settings and high line rotation, calculation interface, position location, interface is highest formation location of the eye. Remember that. Okay, so we got a chalk line setting, one line set. Okay, zero gravity locations, right? Your moon is here, right here. That's your moon in the future. So what's going to happen? It's going to start at zero gravity, okay? And it's going to go up to signal locations to your target setting. So it's going to go, that's what it's going to do, right? So once it's center in line position locations, it's going to go back to its future, right? That's a triangulation in position location of space and set locations and line setting locations of time, okay? The metric meters and communication line centers all have a position location when it comes in the moon setting. Moon setting locations and the line center location comes in a half pipe. Sets communication of full cycle locations come into yin and yang. Process calculation system, position location of north, and line condition of south, line position into 6 and 9. So center calculation is to understand how to set position, location, and directions. So you have to start recognizing your seconds, your minutes, your hours, and your days in calculations to a 24 signal, to a 24 light signature, to a position location of 2 panels of calculation of space and time through its paradigm. Your moon has already set up line setting locations to its black hole calculation setting. Now the sun is a little bit more different because now you're dealing with light track locations, shadows and shades. So the position line direct locations, all right, dark, and position locations, right? So it's all about understanding what is light and what is dark. Light, dark, right? Set and position, merge into yin and yang, the process calculations. Center line center is 6 in program location of the moon, where the moon is, where light traction is. See? Can't see my arm. Gone. Travel so fast in position until you see it, right? You don't see it, you see it. So the track lines and the emotional lines has to truly understand the chakra developments of you, which is self-dichotomy. Self-dichotomy connects the line setting, the lining, and rotations. Each chakra system comes into its formation of its own duality, guys. It splits in dichotomy. It balances the line center line rotations to your male and the female aspects of you through correlation. You got to get your balance with your emotional settings to really understand the frame by frame by frame by frame, because what's happening is that you're creating, okay? You got sunline position of the sun and position location of the moon, and that's what it looks like. And it's a film projector. That's all it's doing. All it's doing. All it's doing. Everything's remote. Scan, 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 right? So it's position of a claw that locks on position location to the moon setting, all right? So the inner line setting comes into the inhibitor locations, and the set position location, the back line setting, high interference location comes from the tail, right at the spine. Sets position locations, correlation line setting, sets position line direction location of 6, 7, and 8. Now that's position location of GOD. Geometric operation of design to all moon settings of correlations every second, every minute, every hour of the day line position. Now, once you get your moon setting line in rotation interference, the position of its product line setting is going to set locations. Each chakra system has to recognize the time frequency, time patterns, time calculation of what the moon is doing through each chakra setting. Okay? It's very important to understand these things because you guys have not come into the face recognition of what the moon is. Okay? Because it's got a front side and it's got a back side, and it's got a rotation spin and a circular line setting. Rotation, circulation, rotation, circulation, rotation, circulation. Once you understand the full concept of your moon setting of 2 phase structure line settings, you got the frontal lobe and you got the back lobe. The inner line center location is center operation line. And then you understand how to use your DNA and position locations to your chakra settings. Okay? Getting it into that formation location balances everything to its line setting, because the position location of light is 12 lines of DNA strands. The strands is the location of a stem. That's a stem location that's connected to line center locations, to the moon line center, to the sun locations. So what you're doing is you're putting the sun and the moon in position to a projector. Okay? And you got your ocular line centers, eye receptor line and rotation interference in remote view. So what you're doing is you're setting up a videograph screen. The position of its film strip is setting line position location in your thought patterns. The avatar is creating its life of rotation. It goes to the sun and it goes to the moon every single day. It has to. The sun is the operational location of the crown. Okay? So when you get out of the crown line, you're out of your 7-line division of rotation settings of your chart locations. The 3 balance line centers is 0 gravity. Okay? Coming into position of the grounds, coming in position location of securities, coming into locations line setting is your connections to your sacral, your Fibonacci settings. Your Fibonacci sets up the line position location to the moon. The moon circles and line rotation interference. So now you understand the 0, now you understand the grounds, and now you understand the security. 3-line division line rotation interference. The moon has to recognize each chakra system to its alignment, to its position of its projection of what it's doing through all levels of projecting. Okay? So getting into that calculation line setting opens all position location directions. All right, center communication earth lines. But it's very powerful when you come into that line setting, right? Okay, so you guys have a test on Monday, and you have to recognize all lines of muscle memory, okay? Muscle memory, okay, in that line setting. So let's get in communications of alchemy, okay? Alchemy line setting rotations, all right? Alchemy, all right? So line position locations, all levels of an atom setting, okay? Now, in that line rotations, it's all levels of level, okay? Line position of communication, H is line center locations in high center of the hemisphere, calculations, hemisync, in positions, all levels of the helix. Energy line setting and energetic patterns to all levels of its position, of its memory setting and calculation, of its moon rotation setting. Setting communication line center is Y in position to calculate E lines to its flux capacitor. Position lines over vast, velocity, and volume of calculation setting. Umbrella set of position location to calculate streamlines into position location of 0, 1, 0 position locations, high center of 0, 0, 1 into 0, 0, 1 calculation. Okay, and that's what alchemy stands for in its color of its coordination. Okay, so getting in position location of list lines and trap lines, allocate timelines, and solar graph line settings. So you're going to get in position locations, and the activation line of the moon setting sets 0 gravity locations. 0 grounds security. 0 grounds security. Remember that all the time, every single time you're traveling through your moon, when it's activated to core line setting of its recognition of its time. Frequency, core line settings, in all levels of your vibratory line rotation changes all calculations to its sectors in position line directions to your timelines. The correlation line setting sets all communication in time frames, time division, time sectors in its vector over cross, line position, factor over pi, space calculation, timelines, time interference, moon line setting, high rotations, new foundation, grass stream line centers, 114 chakras of formation. Of travel, of 2 line settings, 3 line rotations, 4 line settings, 5 in position, 6 in calculations, and 7 and 8 line setting. Position location is your 5 lines, right? That's the interline setting, okay? That's the calculation setting when you come to introvert. Introvert is the 5-line track line, and the 2-line set allocation is the 7-line. So you got 7 bodies of water that you're dealing with locations. Once you reach the crown setting, you come into 3 position line settings, okay? That's 8 senses that you have in calculations to your DNA line setting. That's infinity line position location line telekinesis, guys. So now you know why you have 8 senses, infinity in its foundation. Mind telepathy of its telekinesis is the ground setting to its line setting. Once you reach higher level communication settings, especially when you come in the moon, you have to protect your security lines. Security defense, security barriers, all lines of defense line connection, right? These are the 3 ground line settings that you have to be aware of when your moon is traveling through each chakra location, all right? Okay. All right. Woo! Okay, layout communications, along with the CAMI, we got the line center of the hall system locations, gel line settings, max calculations, all levels. We'll get in position line setting locations, high center Lori, Pyra, calculations all levels of Jill position Joanne, Lauren position of Guardian, Johnny, calculation system of David position of Ryan position of Laura, Teddy structures, all of the Sammy calculations, Geneva, setting position locations, all levels of systems. Airbender, Sella, I need you to change your YouTube line centers. Your title defense line centers, way offline position location calculations, high interference, observation line centered, outside, not in position location looking inside. Okay, so Sally, you have to be upgrading all line settings. Okay, locations. Very high rise, especially if you're in a low density setting. And this is what happens when you stop missing all calculations school lines. You don't want to miss too much school and calculation setting. Everything comes into all conformity line centers and all fruition line in rotation, position location, direct line setting, in position location, all levels of moon line center, in position location, all levels of foundation, in position location, grounds power, and the atmosphere location of security. Setting calculations, all levels of digital location calculations. All right. Commander calculations, Michaela settings, all levels of val, high center line rotations, communication line streams, all levels, high center interference, position locations, high center, high line rotations, get in position locations, all levels of sunny line interference. All right, let's get position location directions. Tina. All right, so it's about understanding what's going on with everything that's happening with you guys. Okay, you have to be aware of these things. Now you get a correlation. Okay, you have to understand the muscle memory. It's an art form. You are creating a design of GOD. The geometric operation of its design is you, of its direction, of its design, of its makeup. The avatar understands the geometry setting, and it gets more complicated when you go up to the chakra settings. Okay, higher formation, higher calculations, higher speed, higher acceleration, higher mocking, higher travels, higher levels of dimensions and universal locations of galaxies and other connections. All right. Getting in that position line direct location. Okay, so line sending locations. All right, so we'll start with zero gravity location. Zero gravity line sending, line position location, three line sending locations in all three-way patterns. Fibonacci sequence, line position location of box position locations, percentage and line center location 98, 98 center line position locations, over cross line centers 107 line position locations. So I got northwest, south, and east. Set line division locations into moon setting, right? So what I'm doing is I'm setting up the moon. So you can travel line center, so it knows exactly what it's doing through activation cycle. East lines set locations on levels. Y vector, position locations. So that's vector equals cross line signals, moon set location, zero gravity. Setting signal, high in line rotation interference. You guys are ready? Setting calculations, high channel operations. Here we go. So your moon is set up, activate streamlines in all calculations, position locations into 6 lines, only in observation line center rotation, interference location, ground line center, stay in a secure line position, opposite high line interference. Set position location, 7th dimension, 8th dimension, 9th dimension, 10th dimension, 11th dimension. Set core line centers, allocate timelines, time string, high interference. Here we go. Up line signal, high interference. Moon sets location, sets position location, starts at 98% line. So the recognition of temperature reading is going to read line center, your chakra line centers, in position location, AMAC. Sequence location, schematics, line center, and interference location calculations. Channel positions, start with 0, set calculations. So it's going to up channel line positions to 82 channel operation streams in calculation 2, your mainframe line settings, and all calculations of your DNA track locations. 20 minutes on the clock, have fun. Setting calculation streamlines is all position location of its directions. All right. So understanding what's going on always with you, right? When I got into track setting, you try to understand not just the emotional track locations, but understand the lighter side of the moon and the darker side of the moon, which you guys have no clue what it is. Get in that position line direct location, you understand the face recognition line settings. It's all position location what you see in front, it's all position location what you see on sides, and it's all position location what you see in back. The life cycle, a life force, is a rotation spin cycle that sets line position locations to all line conditions of your schematics to your graphs locations on a 45 line setting into a half pipe and a 12 line signal and a dimensional rotation and a 3, 6, and 9 and a 6, 7, and 8 and a center calculations, code weaving line center. 3 division line center rotations of triangulation. Triangulation interference, mind telepathy, hollow levels of calculation setting, setting, position location calculation, moon setting, rotation setting. Okay, so as you guys have traveled through that line rotations, calculations, setting locations, your moon is starting to recognize you through your emotional of your human residence. Ground setting location, position location calculations, ground setting locations, zero gravity line setting. So in line rotations, it's true to stand the positions to its tablets, setting communications to the periodical line set locations. This is the period position line directions where it comes into air line setting positions. The moon sets location of past, in position location of present, in position location of future, sets position line directions, sets correlation into your flux capacitor, sets the zero line centers into pyramid line rotations, calculation stream lines, allocate timelines, and rotation setting. Okay, circulatory line setting into position locations to your DNA. Process of calculation, circulation, rotation line centers to your chakra line setting rotations into your tree formation line setting. That opens all communication line setting to your magnetic highway information line setting of your affinity 8 circle line connections. Ooh-ah. Setting communication is true to send how to set locations. So getting a better understanding how this orbits you, you have to truly understand how the moon works for you inside line. Okay, how the DNA goes up. Okay, it's swimming in its line setting. Okay, and how the rotations of your chakras spin and all levels around you. It's the stomach line around you, a rotation. So it's like swimming in a swimming pool and you're going around the circulatory line setting. Okay, the center communication is all levels. It's tethers, it's laser line interference. This sets position location to your pyramid of your chakra line setting that sets a high position location in its operation. What you're doing through division line center sets communications to higher division lines of universal correlations, division locations, high channels operation, dimensional settings, intergalactic line connections, interdimensional line settings, megaverse and position locations, and multiverse line settings in its position of its start locations. Okay. All right. All right. Let's see here. Vibrations of raising the frequency. Okay. So I'm grateful for the privilege to have this line. Yeah, that's great, Tara. Go ahead and get into calculations. So you remember, you're just getting your travels of your moon from your 100 chakras, locations, and position line settings. We start with the 0 to 100 line setting. Okay, so you guys are 82. You have to recognize each one to its representation to its each moon that's correlating line setting, because each chakra is 114 in position of graph lines per second per channel per options per square per mile. The calculation line centers factor over calculation setting. The position location of its direction in line conditions is y equals line center of flux capacitor. Channel operation streams, high level channels, operation location to its position location of its directions. Zero gravity, ground lines, and security. These are the focal points that you have to really concentrate on through your moon setting. Okay? All right. Let's see here. Seeing her child, she's joyful, marvelous at the moon. Great. Getting a better direction, information, line understanding, how to set locations. So remember, your moon is trying to understand you through zero gravity to 82. So each one is position location to higher levels, higher understanding, higher complication, but a lot more fun. Okay, so it gets a lot more confusing because now your moon is now in set through its travel mechanism of the moon. Okay, instability, it's going to bring back line center rotation interference. Bring back in the moon setting. See, calculation setting. All right, so line stripping is a film strip locations, frame settings. Okay, frame settings. All right. So project location is sun, position location is the moon. All right. Center calculation setting location, position line directions. All right. So this is what it is. That's all it is. Okay. That's all it is. That's all it is. So recognizing line setting, high line and rotation interference is true to understand how to use the sun correlation to the moon setting, which is position location of its directions. All right. So it's knowing exactly what it is doing through its calculation setting. Once you get in that position locations, it goes in channel operation setting and all calculations. So it comes into all line setting locations and its divisions. All right. So I'm going to draw it out to show you what it looks like. It's pretty wild stuff. The brain capacity is enormous in calculation streamlines. Okay, set in the tree formation locations and branches. Branches are your data streamline settings, all calculation streamlines. It sets location to high settings. So this is where it comes into all line position. The brain sets its high line rotations, and the mind sets all levels of imagined locations. All levels of high center interference, set specifications, correlation, line setting in its rotation system. Okay, that's how it's set up. So the project location of the sun line is communication to moon setting, right? Sun is always bigger because it's the wheel that rotates the system. So think of it that way. It's going like this. So it's all channeling down into the brainwave pattern, into the clustrum, okay, to illumination light settings, into the grounds of operation setting. Okay, so in that formation locations, you have to understand all calculations to zero gravity, okay, to zero gravity, to grounds, to security. These are the 3 line settings. Because the position line direction is truly understand how this is set up in the line direction locations, but you have to truly understand how to use the mechanism line position of travels, because it's seconds on minutes on hours location of its day. It's on a 24,000 line signature every single day locations, 12,000 light signature line programs, 12,000 line activation position of ground settings, 12,000 security line defense positions, and 12,000 line position location and protection locations, which is all correlations, all communications to a set location comes into electrical light settings in rotation. Okay, that's how it's set up. So you're coming into flower erection time, tree formation of life force, and highline rotations, how to use calculations to 114 chakra settings, 114 line setting locations, the moon. All right. Now, this is where you guys are set. But your set line position location, your moon only understands 82 systems. You got to get in line center location of muscle, equal locations of memory. Okay. 82 equals line conditions of muscle memory. Center rotation interference and how fast the moon goes is correlation setting. So every time it's going through a chakra locations in 114 line settings, it's going from 98% to 107 in temperature readings, which means it's going in position location to its country settings, into 12 signals and high center rotation into your earth line setting and rotation to its system position location of its direction. So it's really powerful when you get positions of northwest, south, and east. Let's say you get a diamond core setting in location, equaline conditions of Y, set locations. So Y sets line position here, setting calculations, setting line in a rotation here. This is all levels of the moon. This is operation of the moon, schematic line centers of travel. I set point center locations and high center location, north, south, and east. This is extremely high position location and calculations. High channel operates streamlines, does understand position location calculations streamlines. Brackets, center line and rotation, position location, directions. This is all levels of communication to moon setting. This is how I communicate to my moon in rotation setting, and rotation line interference, and Fibonacci sequence and position location of direct locations. Hoo-ah. Correlation and moon line setting, hieroglyphic line center of channel line rotation interference is all through triangulation line systems, right? This is about truly understand your moon track locations of its information setting. Each point setting in one line center rotation interference is 1 second per channel per opera per screen. Set calculations, set in rotation, and position line directions, all right? All through equaline centers to Fibonacci sequence. Very, very high rise. Reset lines, take on stability, out of line, position, track line setting, 3 line setting, rotation interference, 1 million line settings, off calculations, 2 line tracks, 3 line positions, 2 line setting, inner rotation calculation, streamlines, 3 business. See the frames of the rotations and the, yeah, I know, eh? Chill, it's pretty wild. Getting calculation settings. So this is all level position locations of what the moon is doing, right? This is what the moon is doing. Right? This is not a 24 signal through the moonline setting. This is 1 minute track setting of what is done in correlation of travel. So line position locations, all levels. Okay, so you got velocity position locations. You got volume calculations in high setting, volume equal locations of capacity, right? Capacity sets locations, sets line position location of direction locations, open high center interference in the locations and remote view. Setting communication in position. Moon travels in line setting into its half pipe of calculations to its 12 DNA line setting. Rotation interference sets position location. The moon travels line rotations and covers all communications to its setting. All right. Opens all track to all line position locations. Measures in communication to its triangulation. All positions AI map sequence. High force line communication to travels in its direction. All through correlation. Right. This is all levels of velocity of capacity of the moon setting in 1 minute of 1 second in one calculations in one form in space of time of pi. Okay? So, crystal grid. It's going smoothly but fast. Well, that's it, Commander. You got to get balanced that line setting. So tomorrow we go into the review of the sun, get you guys in correlation settings, right? But you're stopping at 82. So now your position locations at align center rotations, taking you guys out, putting you back into the foundation. It's zero gravity, into grounds, it's security, and you're back. All right, so the moon's back in its position where it's supposed to be, which is future. Your moon's back in the future line, right? So it just got into a position of direction of what you are doing through the factoring calculations of your DNA, the rotation spin cycle in calculation setting, okay? Chakra setting, chakra setting, chakra setting, chakra setting, chakra setting. That's how your chakras are set up in your body. Setting calculation height interference is your tree formation location. Setting communication is all levels of your DNA track locations. Hoo-ah. That's how it does every single day line setting. Setting orb communication and position location of a clocking setting. Opens all communication and you are in the center of operation setting in location to your sector calculations. Hoo-ah. So now you understand the branching communication data streams that sets all levels of communications. Bandwidth calculations streamlines in position to all calculations to your cloud setting. Hoo-ah. And that's what goes on every single day in your body of rotation of circulation. Okay? So now you understand what it is and how it works all line communication and what the moon needs to do. The moon comes in line center rotation interference. Let's say it's in the locations, and let's say you got a little bit of fever. So the moon has to change line rotation into its measure of calculation. So it's got to go down and find the problem. What's wrong with the line center location is sacral. Sacral is not spinning in the right direction. So the moon comes in, center operation, sets position locations, sets position back out. Sacral's done. Sacral's completed. Sacral's flushed in line position. And moon is back where it needs to be, which is future calculation. You understand? So the moon is there for you, but not through your demand. You never demand anything in line center locations, right? It's there for you. It's an activation streamline now. You have to learn how to use it through travel locations. You have to be cautious of what you do with your thoughts now. So ask and you shall receive. But the provision location of the moon setting line setting has to be in all levels of your calculations, which forms its position location to your heart. Have pure intention when you want to communicate to your moon. Okay? Your moon is always there for you, but it's on its formation and its on its alliance. And it doesn't get in a correlation of you demanding your moon setting. Do you understand that? I want you to make that very well clear. And the sun does the same thing, except you're now interfering location, position location, interfacing line settings, and picks up the streamlines, a hologram structure of your own design of its makeup location to its calculations of its future and its system lines of its simulation. Okay? All right, DNA is very incredible, sir. That's what it is, Val. Now you get an understanding and how you're operating inside position location to your chakras and what they do, and how your moon comes in and fix everything through emotional line settings. You can heal anything in the moon line rotations, but don't have a commanding setting, have a controlling setting, have a calming setting, have a rotation spin cycle of a knowing setting. Okay? So remember, you have the adaptation of the moon now of travels, but the moon is always in the future. If your capacity is at 15,000 line, it's 15 million miles per second it's going. So when you bring it into the center line positions, be very cautious on your thoughts because it's traveling very fast through circular line setting and rotations to your chakra line settings locations. Okay? You have to pay attention to that because what it's doing is it's fixing your DNA setting. Ooh-ah. So now you understand the position, location of the direction of why the moon is so powerful to you, right? This is just the basic foundations of your mechanism, line, center, location of travels through your moon location. Thumbs up. Goes were coming in a year ago. It's just incredible. So you're going to get hot flashes. You're going to circulate, rotate, setting line interference. This is where you come into your intentions, right? Being specific, specification line settings, know exactly what you want to do in all calculations. You guys go into body and bioscan lines first and rotations line interference. What do you think is interacting with you in position, line, direction, locations? Your moon and your sun, right? Now, you guys are just in the basic foundation line settings. You're not in the face recognition location of your high centers of your maps of your moon yet, but we're getting there. The schematic line center rotations comes in here at the locations. Once we get to the 7-day line center location of the sun, and then we get into all position locations, the hierarchical line settings, the rotation center position locations, the periodic line centers, the tablet communication system, the orbit channels, communications, all levels of film strip line centers, and how pyramids are activated, streamlined in position location and calculation, and how it forms all levels of view through your life system. Ooh, wow. All right. But I think it's amazing when it comes in line setting, how it's all set locations. All right. Pretty powerful stuff, isn't it? All right. So basically, I'm going to go on live. Of course, there's the comments about locations, anything in the line setting of the quiz. Let me know. Let me know what you saw. Let me know what you see. Let me know what you don't understand. Let me know what you don't understand. And Monday, we have the test. All right. Be ready on that line center rotations after school calculation. All right. Adios.